What an incredible night. I know there's a lot of concern about the impact that NIL's having on college basketball. More specifically, the potential impact NIL's having on March Madness. But whatever that impact is, it did not matter last night. The first few rounds of boredom, the first few rounds of uncompetitive matchups, especially the first two rounds where teams like LGBTU had absolutely no chance of winning. How was questioning Quentin going to compete with Cooper Flagg? If this were a contest of questioning gender, Quentin and the identifiers from LGBTU, they would be the number one seed. But this is basketball, and the basketball last night was absolutely incredible. That was two of the best games of the season, featuring the top four teams in the country. What more could you ask for? If that's what NIL gives us in the Final Four every year, I'm fine with it. Speaking of Cooper Flagg, I'm sure his parents are very concerned right now. Obviously, they're not concerned about his future, even though he missed that shot, even though Duke choked away the game in the final 3 minutes. Cooper Flagg is still going to be the number one pick in the NBA draft. And unlike female players, Cooper Flagg, he will not be skipping the NBA draft to return to college. You don't reject tens of millions of dollars to return to college and risk tearing your Achilles. Now, it's understandable when the ladies reject the WNBA. The only thing they're rejecting is minimum wage and road trips on the Greyhound bus. But the reason Cooper Flagg's parents should be concerned, their son has become the latest object of obsession for Skip Bayless. Cooper Flagg takes that shot last night, and before the ball even bounces off the front of the rim, Skippy was working his Twitter fingers. "Hey, lonely men, it's me, Skippy B. I know you're wondering what I think about a kid who's young enough to be my great-great-grandson, but don't you worry, my wife Ernesto has taken the camera out of her boyfriend's bedroom and set everything up for me to make a video immediately." Based off of one shot at 17 years old, 18 years old, based off of one moment in college, not the NBA, based off of one moment in college, Skip Bayless is questioning whether or not Cooper Flagg has the clutch gene. You know what I'm questioning? I'm questioning why Skip Bayless is so obsessed with some other dude's genes. For 2 decades, he has been asking LeBron James what he has in his genes. Now, as LeBron nears retirement, Skip is transferring his obsession to Cooper Flagg. Outside of the weird obsession from an aging fossil, I thought last night was incredible. Both games were highly competitive. Both games came down to the wire. The stars showed up and the stars showed out. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about the ladies. Friday night, painfully boring. There were sequences Friday night of some of the worst basketball imaginable. And as expected, it showed up in the ratings, as ratings for the fake Final-4 declined by 65%. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Yesterday on the second channel, talked about the concerns I mentioned earlier and the impact of NIL on March Madness. Dan Patrick, he had Jim Nance on his show this week. In my opinion, Jim Nance is one of the best broadcasters in sports. They both shared their concerns about the impact that NIL is having on college basketball. Jim Nance claimed that the March Madness we have known throughout our lifetime, that is going to be extinct in the next 15 years. Now, whether or not that's good or bad, who knows? So, if you haven't already, subscribe to the second channel. Friday night, Texas, South Carolina on ESPN. Dawn Staley against whoever the hell coaches Texas. The unknowns from South Carolina against the unknowns from Texas. The stars were shining bright on other channels because there was not a damn star on the court in that game Friday night besides Dawn Staley. And I checked her stat line. She had 0 points in 0 minutes. Texas, South Carolina on ESPN, 3.6 million viewers. Down 50% from last year when South Carolina played NC State. UConn, UCLA. Paige Bueckers, or Paige Bueckers, Paige Bueckers, whatever the hell her name is. And what is with these modern names? When I was in school, the last names were Smith, Jones, Travis, Stern, Wiener. Nowadays, it seems like everyone has a last name that requires a damn translator. But anyway, UCLA UConn, the star power of Paige Bueckers and Elmer Fudd, drew 4.1 million viewers, a decline of 10 million viewers when compared to last year. Their decline, it was larger than the audience of both of these games combined. Over the course of a year, 10 million people suddenly lost interest in women's college basketball. I wonder why. Overall, the women's Final-4 averaged 3.9 million viewers, down 65% compared to last year. However, it was the third most watched Final-4 on record, so I guess that's a good thing. If you're ESPN, you couldn't have asked for a better matchup for the national championship. UConn, South Carolina. With Juju Watkins injured in the second round of the tournament, this is the matchup that you wanted. The only two stars in the tournament competing for the national championship. Now, of course, there is a small problem. Half of that duo of stars will be on the bench coaching the game, but that's okay. If there is one thing Dawn Staley knows how to do, it is generate interest. When you're offering a product as bad as women's basketball, you have got to find other ways to generate interest, because the product on the court, that ain't gonna do it. That's not my opinion. We have decades worth of data that proves there is a complete lack of interest in women's basketball. Well, Casey, that's not true. The women's tournament has been a success. The Final-4 was a huge draw. Yeah, damn sure was. Unless, of course, you compare it to last year. But you're right. Final-4. It was a draw, but that also proves my point. In order for there to be interest in women's basketball, there has to be something extra to generate interest. During the regular season, they averaged 280,000 viewers on ESPN, so you have to figure out ways to capture people's attention, whether it's the tournament itself, whether it's a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon like Caitlin Clark, or whether it's Dawn Staley talking shit. The ladies from South Carolina, who refer to themselves as Cocks, they are competing for back-to-back national titles and their third championship in 4 years. By the time you're seeing this video, South Carolina might have won their third national title in 4 years, or they could have gotten their ass kicked. But how many of you guys knew that? How many of you guys knew that South Carolina was competing for dynasty status? According to Dawn Staley, there is a reason that we're not hearing about the greatness in South Carolina. There is a reason that the Lady Cocks have been overlooked. We create these narratives around great players. Caitlin was one of them last year. Paige Bueckers is receiving all the attention this year. And us damsels in South Carolina, we are distressed because no one cares about our dominance. Because of her long history with mythical racism, part of me wonders if there's a racial component to Dawn Staley's complaints. But because she didn't make any references to race, I am willing to give Dawn Staley the benefit of the doubt here. Either way, Dawn Staley is claiming that South Carolina is being overlooked because the media only focuses on star players. Well, no shit. That doesn't just happen in women's basketball. That happens in every sport. Right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are having an historic season in the NBA. They're 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. I can't remember the exact statistic. It's either their average margin of victory or their average margin of victory against winning teams. In one of those two categories, the Thunder are winning by at least 10 points. They have been dominant all season. The problem is, no one cares. If you turn on ESPN or FS1, they're talking about Kevin Durant and the disappointment in Phoenix. They're talking about LeBron James and the Lakers, especially Nicky Wright, the dude on FS1 with the worst haircut in America. Nick Wright looks like he gets styled by a blind clown. He's also obsessed with LeBron James. Last week, Nick Wright had his dream come true. After years of kissing ass, after years of begging for LeBron's masculine affection, LeBron noticed Nick Wright sitting courtside and he gave Nick Wright a hug. Immediately, Nick Wright was bragging to his lonely male followers that LeBron James gave me a hug, my Lord and risen King touched me and instantly healed my leprosy. Anyway, no one is talking about the Thunder. They've got the potential MVP of the league and no one is talking about them. Why? Because they don't have any stars. It's the same thing with South Carolina. Can you name a single player on South Carolina's roster? But that is not the only reason people are not talking about South Carolina. It's not just South Carolina. Throughout the season, people weren't talking about UCLA or Texas. Hell, people weren't talking about UConn until March. Because people aren't talking about women's basketball. And the reason people aren't talking about women's basketball is because people aren't watching it. Mark this day on your calendar, April 6, 2025. It's my father's birthday. But watch what happens to the women's tournament next year. Outside of Juju Watkins, who is the star? Better yet, who is going to be the draw? I think part of the reason that women's ratings are higher this year than normal is because of what happened last year. By this time next year, we will be 2 years removed from Caitlin Clark. Paige Bueckers will be gone. Juju Watkins, she tore her ACL, so who in the hell knows when she's going to return? Who is going to generate interest in women's basketball? By this time next year, I think we see ratings for the women's tournament back to normal. We will see further declines on top of the declines that we are seeing this season. But give me your thoughts on this. Women's Final-4 ratings were good, but they were down millions of views from last season. 10 million people turned off women's basketball. Also, give me your thoughts on Dawn Staley complaining about being overlooked. Why is South Carolina being ignored? Give me your reason. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.